What's up, everybody? Today we're going to look at the C-Ray 200 made by Cobalt. Not a lot of information out there on this light, so I figured I'd give you a review, and I also have a par meter. I'm going to start doing some par readings to show you guys and just give you my general thoughts about it. I do like the light. It's comparable to an AP700, a kessil, and I would say it is not an exact clone. This is a different light. A lot of people try to say it's a clone, but it is not. The lenses are different. I believe they're 120 degrees, and they also have this kind of halo ring around them for basically your moonlighting, so it can get really dim to the point where you can barely see it and finally shut off, unlike some lights where they have you know, you lower the settings, but there'll still be a good light, and then it just shuts off. This one actually gets to a point on this size tank where it completely dims down to barely nothing gradually. The glass, I haven't cleaned the glass. This is an acrylic tank, so I try not to clean this this acrylic constantly because it is easily scratchable, and in a later video I'll have an update on that. But I did not clean it also for the reason of I didn't want to kick up the algae on there and start clouding the water. So my water, I'm pretty sure, is fairly clear. I just put new carbon in it about 2 days ago. So I'm gonna test it on that level. And so I'm gonna put up a screenshot of the settings that I have on the light right now that gives me the pretty much a good color pop and blue spectrum that I like. It's probably not as bright as I like it. I want to get somewhere between 250 to 350 mid-level in the tank and par. So I'm going to try that, and I know I still have, I believe I still might have some room for the blue channels to be boosted a little bit more, as I like to keep them, the blue channels usually maxed out, or at least a blue dominated light spectrum. So I'll pop up the image of what the settings are at right now for this light. Alright, so I'm going to try to do this the best way I can. I have a mic hooked up to my shirt so you guys can hear me good, and I have this Apogee Quantum Flux par meter. I'm not really too sure about this equipment. It is what my LFS had for me to use and borrow, so I did. But I tried it out a little bit, and it seems to work pretty well. It just gives you a flat out number right on the monitor here. And my light is barely close to the surface. I really only have about 5 to 6 inches between the light and the water surface level. And I'm going to go ahead and try to put the meter in here at those settings that I just showed you on the screen and see where they are at. And let me see the best way to do this, because I don't have a lot of room. So I'll try not to hit that. So right about at the surface level, couple inches down, it is reading 5, it's about 550. It bounces around between 550 to 600. So I'm gonna just go about midway down. I think that's about midway down. So right there, trying to get it to equalize with the shimmering a little bit there. It's between 230, it's showing it's fluctuating between 230 and 260 par. So we're gonna go lower all the way down here where I have this anemone. Try not to put a shadow on the sensor here. Right down here, we are at about 150. It's bouncing around between 140 to 150 there. And I'll move it kind of out here to the edge. We're at about 100 here. So about 100 par all the way in the furthest corner there. And I'm gonna put it towards the center-ish here. I'm having a hard time seeing, so I hope this is pretty well. We're at about 200, right in the middle here where the stylo is. So it's fairly all right. This is a spectrum. I personally, I prefer it to be this way with the levels as maxed out as I could get it with that kind of, with this kind of color pop on going on. So yeah, we're about 200 right there. I'm gonna put some more rock in here, so I'm gonna start raising it up to here. So yeah, it's gonna get to about 230, 250 here, which I think is acceptable for the SPS, and I'm going to try to put more acro in here, so I'm trying to get up there to about 300, 350 from what I've been reading. If you have any comments of what you think the par should be like, please put it in the comments below for other people investigating that issue. I'm still trying to find a good general answer to that, where I should be, and I'm just kind of guesstimating 250 to 350 for the acros. I may need it higher. Just let me know what you think. Yeah, so right there. And the center light, it has a center LED that's like a warm white. If I put this meter right under that, it doesn't give a high. Right under that light, it's like very dim. It only gives it about a 220. Actually, it's dropping right now. Now about a 230 reading now at the rate I have it at, the percentage of brightness. But I mean, if I put it under these blue lights, it kicks up to about 2500 par right under in the open air. So I'm gonna boost some levels up. I'm gonna max out the blues, and I'm gonna put some of the, if you saw in the picture of my levels, I don't have any of the whites or the wider spectrum white light at all on the light itself on the actual LED part inside the light. Sorry, I'm having a hard time describing that, but I do have the whites coming from the LED strip, which is very kind of weak. It's almost only for aesthetic reasons, just to get a little bit of colors popping out of your coral and fish. But I'm gonna boost the main whites up a little bit, see what we get, see how high that gets everything in there, and just try to crank it to see what it can do in a tank, this 50 gallon. And I'm gonna take a small measurement here of how deep my tank is. It is 20 inches, so everything you're looking at, just measure it from 20 inches. All right, I'm gonna adjust the light and be right back. Okay, so I adjusted the light. I maxed out, only had a little bit to go on those blue levels, about 10% more, and then I maxed out well, I didn't max out the bright whites. I put to 30%. This leaves the tank to a level that I consider acceptable without it getting a little bit too warm and washing out any colors. So just visually, it still looks good. It's at a wider level. It's not really, from my eyesight compared to the camera, it's not really blue much at all, but it's an acceptable level to me, I'd say. Any warmer and I'd say it'd probably start washing out colors. So I'm gonna grab the par meter, try to get some more levels in here. So it's only boosted up just a little bit more, trying to get to those levels we want, between 250 to 350, I would say. A couple inches under the water level, it is showing between 760 and 800. So it's pushing more towards the high 700s here. So I'm gonna move halfway into the tank. So it's at about 300 par here, hovering right there between 300 to 340. Try to get the glove out of the way as much as possible. Okay, so that's about midway down the tank. And I'm only trying to put, I'm going to add some more rock in here, but I'm only going to try to get it about this high on the rock level, so the coral should reach up a little bit higher than that by a few inches. So say probably about here. So yeah, about 300 par right here, mid-level in the tank at this spectrum. So down here by the anemone, it's about 200. It's showing about 200 par, so it's not bad. It did got a good bit brighter. Back here towards the zoanthids, towards the corner, it's showing about between 120 and 140. All in all, I'm satisfied with the par readings. It's pretty up there. I'm pretty confident I can still grow SPS and acros, given that I can set them at a higher level in the tank. I don't think I'll have a problem growing these corals. The light itself, I'm pleased with it, but I will go through a couple of things that I found were an issue. The app works, but it's not a direct link. I can't just open up the app and tune the light. I have to disconnect my phone from the router and then connect to the light as a router, and then disconnect from the light and connect back to my router Wi-Fi. So I've tried per the instructions on the app to connect the light to my router, so I can just open it up similar to the AI app, but it has yet to work. You have to push a combination of these buttons to unlock the light, and then enter the IP address and all that good stuff to the router to connect, but it will never unlock for me. I've tried it where I've disconnected the light from the main power, restarted it freshly, and it still will not do it. So I'm just leaving it alone as it is because it still works. I can connect, put my program in, leave it alone, and the light does its thing, ramps up, ramps down, and it's exactly where I want it at the time being. And then when I need to change it, all I have to do is reconnect to the light the way I explained, and it works. It's just not as convenient as say the Aqua Illumination app was, where I could just open it up and call it a day. Another thing was the mounting arm for this light was not the best. It works, but if you have a tank, which the dimensions of this tank are fairly similar to some of the most common tanks, this tank is too narrow for the mounting arm for this light. Front to back, if I had the mounting arm made specifically for the C-Ray, it would come out on its shortest setting. The lights would be directly over this part of the tank, almost towards the front edge, and then can extend almost outside of the tank. So it's almost too large. It's made more for like all-in-one tanks that have a lot bigger of a depth front to back. When I had it on the 25-gallon lagoon, it fit in the center on the smallest setting on that mount. So that's one thing to consider. If you have a common 50-gallon to 75-gallon, it might not sit exactly where you want it, and that's just one negative. But I've overcome a lot of these issues and got the light functional for my needs, and I don't really have to worry about it. They're just kind of nuisance issues. And as long as you know ahead about the mounting light, you can always figure out a different option. For me, drilling in my ceiling and hanging it was not an option. I don't like drilling holes, so it's gonna stay like this. I actually use the Aqua Illumination mount, and it works fine. So considering or comparing it to AP700s and XR30s, being around the same price point, this light does shine as a high-end light. It gives awesome color pop. I'd say it is right in the middle between the AP700 and an XR30. It's better on color pop on my livestock than an AP700 would do, or an actual kessil. Since I've had kessils, I noticed this is better, and almost as good as an XR30, yet I don't think it's as powerful as one XR30. So that's a trade-off there. And these are kind of just my opinion. I consider this light better than the AP700 for my needs. I like to get that better color pop than the Kessil can give, but it's, again, I'm pretty sure it will not pull out as high of a par as a Kessil will, yet it is still strong enough to pretty much do anything I want to do with this size tank. So that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. As always, I get to you as soon as possible. Try to fit as much as I could in this review, but I think we're probably pushing about 20 minutes, so I'm gonna leave it here. Again, thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, I'll have a few more on my new seaclear 50 acrylic tank.